Hello, and welcome to the exercise video for the walking program. This video is going to give you proper demonstrations of all the exercises prescribed. Our first exercise is our water bottle shoulder press. So we're going to start with a nice 90-degree bend in that elbow and extend the arm straight up and lower it right back down to that 90-degree bend again. We want to make sure the elbow does not drop below the height of our shoulder, and we're keeping it slightly in front at all times, so we should be able to see that arm in our periphery when we're looking straight ahead. While doing this exercise, make sure that you're keeping that core in nice and tight, proper posture, shoulders down and back. We're looking straight ahead at all times. And as we're drinking that water throughout our exercise program, this exercise will get a little bit easier. Next, we have our resistance band lat pull down. So to start, the closer your hands are together on this band, the harder it's going to be. And the further apart, the easier it's going to be. So we're going to lower one arm at a time down towards our side, so almost making half a W with that arm, and using the other arm to hold that band up nice and tight. So you almost want to think about pulling the band more down in front of you, so almost as if you're pulling it down on top of your chest instead of behind the head. And again, here we're still keeping that core nice and tight, standing up with good posture, looking straight ahead at all times. Next, we have our resistance band reverse fly. So keeping those arms straight with a slight bend in the elbow, we're just going to pull those arms apart. And possibly here, starting with a little bit wider of a grip on that resistance tubing. Next, we have our sit down and stand up. So we're simply practicing sitting down into a chair or onto a bench and standing back up. We want to make sure we're keeping the weight in the heels at all times, keeping those knees back behind the toes. And as always, chest is up and head is looking straight forward, core is in nice and tight. And as we feel that this gets easier, we can just simply move ourselves out and slowly working ourselves away from that chair until we move into a full body weight squat. When we're in the squat, we want to make sure that we're keeping those knees pointed forward at all times. Chest is up. Feet are about hip width apart for this exercise. Next, we have our single arm and single leg reach. So opposite arm and leg are going to reach in opposition of each other. The leg we're standing on, that knee stays slightly bent, so keeping it soft at all times. We're never locking out joints. And I want you to imagine that you're just reaching towards something and standing back up. Keeping in mind that in these exercise demonstrations, only 4 repetitions are being demonstrated per exercise, and we're going for a total of 12 repetitions for each and every one of them. If this exercise is a little bit challenging for yourself, feel free to find something to grab onto until you get comfortable with your balance. Next, we have our resistance band bicep curl, so standing on that band, shoulders down and back, elbows are glued in at your sides, and we're going to alternate one arm at a time as we bring that hand up towards the shoulder. If you'd like to make it a little bit easier for yourself, you can sit down. And you can sit down with any of your upper body exercises if you're just feeling a little bit tired or fatigued or you like a little bit more rest. And last, we have our tricep extension. So we're placing the handle of that band in the palm of our hand, reaching behind with the opposite hand to grab onto that band. And then we're keeping the upper portion of our arm really close into the head. Elbow stays in close as we extend that arm up. So notice as we extend the arm up, the movement is coming in the elbow, and it's the forearm that's moving. So we want to make sure the upper portion of that arm is stable. So from the shoulder all the way to the elbow, there's no movement. And next we're going to move on to our rest exercises for the cardio portion. So first we have our step and tap side to side. So we're simply just tapping side to side, keeping ourselves moving. Next we can move on to our modified jumping jack. So arm and leg both come out to the side at the same time. And progressing even more, we now have our high knees, so alternating knees come up. Again, we're keeping that core nice and tight. The leg we're standing on, our supporting leg, that knee is slightly bent. Chest is up and lifted, shoulders down and back, and we're looking straight ahead at all times. And if you're feeling really, really good and you want to progress even more, you can try a full jumping jack, but just making sure we're keeping in mind how we feel that day, how our joints are feeling. Moving on to our stretching segment, we have our chest and shoulder openers. So reaching behind, interlacing the fingers, and pressing those arms back as we open up the chest, making sure we're looking up towards the ceiling. Next, we have our back opener. So again, interlacing those fingers, rounding out the back, separating the shoulder blades, bringing that chin in towards the chest, feeling that stretch throughout the upper portion of our back. Next, we have our hamstring stretch, so feel free to grab onto a chair or something to balance. And we're going to go ahead and stick one leg out and then sit those hips back so we feel the stretch in our hamstring, so the back of that thigh. Next, we have our quadricep stretch, so going ahead to grab onto that foot. We're going to pull that foot towards our glutes and pressing that same hip slightly forward and making sure we keep those knees in close to each other the whole time. We're going to feel that stretch throughout the front of our leg, the front of our thigh and our hip. Next, we have our hip opener, so crossing the ankle over the opposite knee, making a nice figure four shape. We're going to go ahead and drop those hips down, feeling that stretch throughout our outer thigh and the outer portion of our glute. So with this stretch, if you'd like a little bit more help with your balance, you can feel free to extend that arm out to your side if you'd like. Next, we have our bicep stretch. So go ahead and open up those arms to the side, rotate those thumbs down so we feel that stretch throughout the biceps, so the front of that arm. And then last, we have our tricep stretch. So bringing that arm straight up and over, keeping that head lifted, feeling that stretch throughout the back of our arm, so the tricep portion. So for each of these stretches, we want to make sure that we're holding them for a total of 15 to 30 seconds. And if we're only holding them for 15 seconds, possibly a couple rounds of it. And we're doing this at the end of every exercise.